Hey! Hello! How's it going, everyone? Um, Within the next couple of days, I am going to actually be, excuse me, I'm actually going to be playing, um, walkthroughs of Final Fantasy. I just recently bought a bunch. I bought, on PC, I bought Final Fantasy 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 too. You gotta say it like that, otherwise it doesn't really make sense unless you're just saying the first 10, you know. I did not buy 11 because you can't really beat Final Fantasy 11. I mean, like, it might be possible if you do it a certain way or whatever, but it's not a game I'm going to play. I also bought 12, 13, 13.2, and 13.3, which is 13 Lightning Returns. That's 13.3. I did not buy 14 again because it's one of the games you can't beat. Plus, another reason I didn't buy Final Fantasy 11 and 14 is because I'm not an MMORPG player. Not really. Like, there are some games like that I will play, but I'm just not good at MMORPGs. I need something that I can use a controller to play. And guess what? You can play Final Fantasy games with a controller on the PC, so it's cool. So it's real cool. I also have Final Fantasy 15. I did play Final Fantasy 15 on the PS4, the PlayStation 4, but it's probably going to take me a while to get used to the battle system for that game. Now, mind you, these are just going to be walkthroughs that are for fun. I'm not going to be going through every single inch of the game, trying to get every single item and all of that. I'm just going to play through it, and that's all there is to it. As far as Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2 go, because they have not yet made a PC version of that. Yes, you can do the simulator, where it's like a Game Boy Advance simulator or whatever kind of thing like that, or you can just play it on the PSP, which is what I'll be doing. I will be playing Final Fantasy 1 and Final Fantasy 2 on the PlayStation Portable. But that's not what I'm going to start out with tonight. Tonight, this video is just a video for advertising that I'm going to play the games, and also advertising that I am an author. I wrote a book. The book is called The Journey of 12 and SnakeWolfe. Now, I know that last name doesn't make sense, so I'll spell it. It is SNAKE, capital WOLFE. One word, one name. As far as where you can find it, it is on the Amazon. You can find it on Amazon.com. You can go to, I believe you can find it on Walmart, eBay, maybe. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've looked. The initial paperback copy is like $15, and the Kindle version is like $4 or $5, whichever you guys read, whichever you read on. And today, oh yes, today is the 30th, 11/30/2021. If I do start playing the walkthrough for Final Fantasy 1, then I might start it at like midnight if I don't go to bed by then. And there is one other thing I would like to mention about my walkthroughs. Now, the walkthroughs are as follows. It's going to be random. One day I'll be doing a walkthrough for Final Fantasy 1 for, like, however long I decide to do it. And then the next day I might be doing a walkthrough for Final Fantasy 13. Or, something like that. It's going to be randomized. It's not going to be the same game every day until finished. It would probably go through such a long series of games faster, probably. I will also mention in this video that I have not yet played all the way through on Final Fantasy 12 Zodiac Age yet. I did not go through Final Fantasy 13 Lightning Returns yet. I have not gone through all of 15. I've probably only played like, I don't know, 10 hours ish. Like I said before, it's not the kind of game that's easy for me personally, is getting used to the controls. Throughout these walkthroughs, for whichever game I'm playing, for the first video of each game, I will do nothing. I will play the intro of each game individually. Like if I start up Final Fantasy 3, I'll let it run through its beginning play, the trailer type deal. Now, back to my book. I used to read a lot. I mean, a lot. And I used to love it. I still kind of do, but it's really hard to find books to read. Something that I personally like, right? It's difficult. The very first, I don't remember the very first book that I actually read. My mom, my stepmom, she taught me how to read. And I was a stubborn bastard about it. I didn't want to do it. She gave me a book to read, and I just kind of, you know, skimmed through it for like 5 or 10, maybe 15 minutes, whatever, just go, just like, and I gave it back to her and said, I read the book. And she was all like, tell me about it. And I was like, well, you really expect me to remember? And she was all like, you didn't read it, did you? And I admitted that I didn't read it. Or at least I'm pretty sure I admitted it right away. It wasn't easy for me to even begin reading. But when I found my rhythm, I eventually moved on to the Harry Potter series. Loved it. I read it so many times. Harry Potter 1 all the way through 7. Or they're 8 now. I don't know. I know that I read the Harry Potter series literally 2 times a year. At the beginning of the year, and then like I would start again, you know, when I would finish it, because I loved the Harry Potter series. My friends called me a Harry Potter geek. Well, some of them, a couple. And that they had good reason to. I was able to, I read it, the Harry Potter series so many times that I was able to read like half of them in a day because I got so good at reading. And so what I would end up doing is, if someone would ask me about the Harry Potter series, I was actually able to tell them, the beginning of the story all the way through to the end, just bits and pieces or whatever. And so I did the best I could with it too. It's like I'm not perfect. And then I inherited most of the books from my brother. Now, speaking of inherited, there's the Aragon series of books, where I do believe that it's actually called the Inheritance series. I've read all those twice. And I got done reading them, and I learned a little bit about the authors, in case, here's a fun fact for you. Christopher Polani became an author when he was 16 years old. I became an author when I was in my 20s. I officially became an author in my 20s. And now here's another fun fact. J.K. Rowling. She became an author, and she decided to only use her initials, J.K. Rowling. Well, I'll tell you what, if you don't know this, here is something for you. Her first name is Joanne K. Rowling. That's her name, Joanne K. Rowling. Great author. She does an amazing job with her writing. I also read the Twilight Saga. Good series. Read it twice. Was it 3 times? No, yeah, 3 times. It was 3 times. And, I read these 3 authors' books, and I was like, I just figured out what my dream is. My dream was to become an author, and I was 14 years old when I started writing my first book. what actually ended up happening was I had actually technically started writing the second book before I even wrote the first book, which was completely by accident. And at the beginning of my first book, when I finally started writing my first book, I dreamt a lot of what I wrote. I used memories of stuff that happened for what I wrote. I used my emotions. I put so much emotion into my book that it was a really long time before I even actually finished it. Before I finished it, um, when I was it 18, 20-ish? It took me a long time to complete my book. I mean, I had to rewrite chapters, delete sections of the chapter, and rewrite that section. And, your ideas for your book, depending on how you write it, can be all over the place, discombobulated, like a damn pinball machine, right? Well, I'd finally gotten into a rhythm, and I was able to go through it. And believe it or not, I actually read my own book. I bought a copy. I read my own book. Excuse me. I read my own book after buying the copy, and it gave me ideas for the second book. The Journey of 12 and SnakeWolfe, Journey to Recovery, is what I named the second book. It's not an official name for it. I might name it something else, I actually kind of plan to name it something else. Hell, I might just call it Journey 2. Like they did for Journey to the Center of the Earth. For the second movie, they just called it Journey 2. No added anything. And then for the last book, like however many books I do, for the last one, I'll just call it The Final Journey. But who knows for sure? I'm not going to try and predict my own writing because honestly, I've been on and off on a writer's block for the second book. I can't rush perfection, right? Something my mom told me. You can't rush perfection. And she's 100% right on that, And the thing that bugs me, though, is that being an author is tough. I will admit that. It's worth it. It is so worth it once you complete that book, that first book. Once you complete your first book, your very first book, it is so damn satisfying that you will literally just be floating on cloud nine. If you are, and this is for those of you who are in the middle of writing your own book right now, Okay? You will be on cloud 9. You will be just so happy that you finished it, that you will reread it, and I guarantee you that if you reread your book, if you read your book and then read it one more time, the second time, maybe even just the first time, you'll be excited enough. Take notes. Write down ideas for your second book in that, if you make it a series. Write down your ideas. Because there are so many times I keep kicking myself in the ass because I didn't write down any ideas that I got from reading my own book. I should have. I wish I would have. Or, like, if you're not very good at keeping track of names in your book, write down the names that you come up with. You could come up with a name like Wed. Not like wedding or anything like that. I mean, like, it's due backwards. So you say you name a character Wed Do, and you think it's an easy name, but then like you start writing the second book, and Wed Do happens to be a main character in that book that you're writing. It's good to have the names written down. Okay? And here's where I messed up. When getting my book published, do not rush it. Do not rush getting your book published. I didn't take my time. I didn't do enough research. I was so tired of being an unpublished author that I rushed into it, and my book was edited and published in a shitty way. They took out 30 freaking pages. 30 pages of my book that I put 6 years of work into, pretty much. Don't let anybody tell you to hurry up. You take your time on your book. You get it published the way you want it to be, when you want it to be. You find the right people to go through. Okay? And if you find someone to publish that will publish your book for free, tell me about it. Just please tell me about it. Author to author, writer to writer, tell me about it. I would appreciate being able to get comments on what people think, especially if they read my book. I would like people to tell me how I did, what they think about it. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being perfectly written, 5 being well written, but could have been like a little bit more, something like that. Just give me a good rating if you liked it. Be honest. Do not lie. Be honest about what you rank a book. Harry Potter series. Excellent series. I give that a 10 out of 10 any day of the week, every day of the week, whatever day of the week, whatever the year, every year. The Harry Potter series are a great series, a perfect series, an excellent series. And I got a lot of ideas from Harry Potter and Aragon together. A lot of my book is an adventure action book, an action adventure. I added a little bit of love, not that much, just, some. And then back to Inheritance, on a scale of 1 to 10, again, I give it a 10. And just like Harry Potter, every day, all day, whatever the day, every year, all year, whatever the year, the Inheritance series is a good series to read. Something that I did that I haven't put into action yet is write down words that I didn't know the definition of. And I wrote down the word, the definition of the word, because I had originally planned to add that word to a book if I wrote one, and I have not done any of those words yet. Mainly because I lost the notebook that I had them all in. And I had like 100 words written. No, actually, it was probably more than that. But anyway, at any rate, I had a lot of words written down. I had a lot of definitions written down. And I wish that I hadn't lost that notebook and the other couple of notebooks. I had like 2 or 3 or more notebooks. They were just little skinny ones, like this wide-ish. So, one word's definition would every once in a while would take up half the page. So I went through a few of those. The Twilight Saga. Okay, this is a tough one for me because I like the movies, but I have a problem with the movies, and I like the books, and I don't have a problem with the books. The Twilight Saga is perfectly written, excellent, wonderful, great, just like Harry Potter, just like the Inheritance series. And the movies, okay, they are done well. They are done well. But they are not done well all the time. And here's why. And the same thing goes for the Harry Potter movies as well. I love those too. But the reason that the Harry Potter the Harry Potter movies did not follow each book the way it should have been followed is because of all the different directors and producers. And the same thing goes for the Twilight Saga, which I don't know if they are still, but they're the Twilight Saga, if you guys are fans of those movies, the Twilight Saga is on Amazon Prime for free right now. They even got extended editions with bonus features, and in the bonus features, that's where I learned about the different producers, directors, whatever. But they are well-made movies, very well made. But again, not every movie is well made. There are certain parts in each movie that you can literally, if you read the books enough and you know the books well enough, you can pick out, okay, this part, I don't like this part because they didn't write it the right way. I take this part out of the movie, kind of stuff like that. And now, here's the big thing. Producers and directors have it really tough because they, when making a movie, they have to do it a certain way. They know they have to do it a certain way, and that if they don't follow it the right way, it could end up being a bad movie, which has happened. The Aragon movie is a pretty damn good example of that. Not that I don't like the movie, it is okay. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it a 5 at best. 4.5 to 5 at best. It could have been better. It should have been better. I wish they would try again. I really do wish they would try again. But I wish they would try again and actually follow the book a little bit better. The first book. Because the first book of the Inheritance saga is Aragon. Right? The actors, okay, so the actor that plays as Brom does a great fucking job. You gotta give him credit. He does that well. He does that perfectly well. Enough to the point where he would deserve to be in the next one. But then he couldn't because then everybody would assume that he didn't die in the first movie, right? So therefore he wouldn't really be able to do so. But he did a great job. Brom was a tough character in the book. He was a tough guy. There was some mixed feelings about him from a lot of people. I thought he was a great father figure to Aragon. Wow, I'm actually kind of just ranting now. Well, that's okay, right? My book is my own idea. I did not plagiarize nothing. I did not plagiarize nothing. I didn't plagiarize a damn thing. It would have been pointless to try and do so. I only came up with ideas off the top of my head and ideas from watching movies and reading books. Like watching the Underworld movies, watching Riddick, watching the Die Hard movies, the Harry Potter movies, even Aragon. Hell, I got ideas from watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, of which the movie made from that was shit. But, and this is my own opinion, by the way, but the music they did for Avatar: The Last Airbender, the movie, was great. So if they could put that music into the remake that's supposed to be on Netflix, maybe, or whatever, that would be perfect. Because they did a great job with it. The music for Avatar: The Last Airbender was great music. You cannot dispute that. You cannot argue with that. They did a great job with the music. Everything else, it's like the author, or I mean the. Just a second. It's like the people. Shit, this is the charger for my computer. Um, and the thing about the writers for Avatar: The Last Airbender, you guys all know who you are if you watch this video. You fucked it up. You took it as a joke. You did not take it seriously enough for Avatar: The Last Airbender to be properly done into or even as a freaking live action. You should have watched it, paid attention to it, taken notes on it, recorded some things, the way they talked, the way they acted. You almost almost completely fucking destroyed Avatar: The Last Airbender for the newer generations because you made that shitty ass movie. Okay? You're lucky that you have a second chance to try something different, or to do something different, or to do something better. Because, damn, man, just damn. There are some parts of the movie that are okay. I've watched it a couple of times just for the hell of it. You know, shits and giggles. Have something on as background noise while playing a game or writing my book. If my book became an animated series or a live action series or even a live action type of TV show, I would do my freaking damnedest, hardest, best that I could to get it done as perfectly right as possible. Because in the end, that's what it takes. That is what it takes to make something correct in this world, is to do the best that you freaking can. Don't take shortcuts, man. Especially when writing. You know, writers out there for books or movies or scripts or whatever. Don't try to take shortcuts. No idea is poor. No idea is a bad idea for a book. No idea is a terrible idea. Every idea you have works. You can use it in your book. Trust me. Every idea I've ever gotten for my books, which, like I said, I've only published one, but still, every single one I've gotten, every single one has been used. Everyone. Whether it be from a dream, whether it be from using part of a memory, or whether it be inspired by watching a movie, or an anime, or a cartoon, or a TV show. Hell, Hercules' Legendary Journeys helped me with my book too. A lot. So, you know, but that's a TV show, by the way. The Legendary Journeys of Hercules. It stars Kevin Sorbo, Michael Hurst. Kevin Sorbo is Hercules, and Michael Hurst is Aeolus. Now, no, like I was saying though, no idea. Every single idea works because it's your idea. You're not going online. Oh, I like the way this sounds. Okay, I'll copy and paste it. You know, I'll explain something that happened to somebody I know. Used to know. I don't Anyway, the point is, I'll explain something that happened, alright? This guy wanted to write a book. And he wrote one. But he went online and copied and pasted stuff from the internet and put it into his book. And then he warped his book to be the way that whatever he copied and pasted was supposed to be, you know? And he told me before he stopped being my friend, because I told him so, he told me that his book was rejected because the people that tried to edit his book found out that only 10% of his book was his own. The other 90% was copied off the internet from websites and whatnot. You know? You can't do that. I've wanted to. I've almost broken down and done so. That's not the way things work. That is not the way things work. You cannot do that. You know? Teachers used to teach that. I don't know if they still do. I haven't been in school in a decade. You know? Almost 11 years. So I don't know what they teach anymore, if they even, do writing stuff at all anymore. So if by some chance that I have a teacher that watches this video, shout out to you. Thank you. You taught me a lot. And I'm thankful. I'm sorry I wasn't better a student. So yeah, no idea is a bad idea when writing a book. No idea is a terrible idea when writing a book. As long as it's your own, 100% your own writing. If I read a book, a rough draft of somebody's book, like if I ever became a popular author and somebody recognized me and said, "Hey, would you mind reading this for me and let me know what you think?" If they copied something that I wrote in my own book, one of my own books, if I have many books by then, I would know. I would be able to tell. I'd be able to tell them. I would be able to say to him or her, whoever they are, I'd be like, "Look, your book is great, but you shouldn't plagiarize what others have written. You really shouldn't. It should be your own idea. It should be something that comes from this thing inside your own head. It's called a brain. And it takes a lot of brain power when writing and reading and watching stuff. It does. More than people think. So get out there. If you're writing your book, I don't care if you have to write it on the roof of your mom's house to try and get ideas. Like, you could be writing an adventure book about a girl who learns how to speak to animals, and one of her favorite animals is sharks. Learn about sharks. Write some real information about sharks, so that way one day when somebody reads that part of the book, oh, I wonder if this is true about sharks. Can they really dive down 500 feet into colder waters to get their prey, or whatever you wrote, whatever you may have learned? And then they can go online and there it is. There's the information that you wrote for them to learn. Like, you can learn many lessons from reading. You can learn lessons from your own writing, too. You just gotta pay attention. If you're only haphazardly or half-assed reading, because you're only reading a book just for the fun of it or something, a shame on you, man. Shame on you. If you're reading a book, you should be able to put 100% of your love and attention into that book, especially if you like it. Don't start reading a book and then just like, oh, okay, I read this much today. I don't want to finish this chapter. I'm just going to go right to the second chapter. No, don't be like that. If you're a reader who does that, stop. You need to read chapter one, even if it's just one chapter a day. One whole chapter a day. You know, that could take you between, depending on how good a reader you are, that could take you anywhere between 10 minutes to an hour to read that one chapter, depending on how good you are. And if you get sucked into the book, then keep reading it. There was one day that I read a Harry Potter book in one day. I sat down in my bedroom for the entire day, just reading and reading and reading and reading. I read so much that when I finally finished one of the books that I was working on, it was book 4, maybe 5, 4 or 5. Yes, it can be done. They can be read in one day. And I happened to be on a roll that day, so I would just stay in my bedroom reading. But when I was finished, I felt like a book was still in front of my face. Literally, like a book, like my face became a book for people to read. It was so weird walking around without that book in front of me for me to read it. I was so used to reading it. And the fact that I finished the 4th or 5th book in a day, I had been getting to be really good at reading books altogether. And the thing is that the ideas they gave me, I soaked it up like a sponge. All of it. Every single idea. I soaked it up like a sponge. But then you know what happened to me? I got cold fingers. When I finally started typing to write my first book, the first book, not the second book and then starting the first. I mean, actually working on the first book. I literally got cold fingers. You know, like when you set up a date, you get cold feet, or when you are going to your own wedding, you get cold feet. Well, when you have problems writing, getting started, even though you got all the ideas right there, all over the place, I got cold fingers when I first started. I was afraid. But you know something a teacher told me was that there's no shame in being afraid. The shame is in being, or no, there is no shame in being afraid, but the shame is in staying afraid. is is what she told me. It was the end of the day. I was walking to the school bus for football practice, and she noticed I sat at the computer because I'd caught up on homework. So every time I caught up on homework, I'd do my writing, work on my book. And she told me that, and she said, she said what she said, that it's okay to be afraid. The problem is in staying afraid. When she told me that, I broke through the wall like the Hulk and started writing when I got home. My dad let me use his computer, and I was at it for a long time. I finished like 5 chapters that night, probably, at best. And then I started watching not a fairy tale. Fairy tale gave me a bunch of ideas for my book too, though. Like I said, anime, man, you can't go wrong. Anyways, I started watching. A friend of mine actually pointed me to this show, and I started watching Black Clover. And I'm like, who is this Asta? Ridiculous guy, always yelling and screaming all the time like that. And it's kind of funny, isn't it, though? Because he was yelling and screaming about his dream, and then there's that attack on the capital, on the city. And you got all of the magic knights going every which direction, taking orders from Leo, or Vermilion, whatever his name was. It's been a while since I've watched it, so I just can't remember. Even though, like I say, it's been a while. I mean, I just saw a couple of episodes yesterday, or the day before yesterday, whatever it was. Anyways, so you got Leo, and he goes to Noelle, and he says this to her. He smacks her on the head, clunk, just like that. Karate chop to that. Because he realized that she was letting her fear of her siblings get in her way of using her magic. And he says to her, there's nothing wrong with fear. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be weak. The shame is in staying weak. That means a lot. That really rebooted my mind. And I started writing in my second book, of which I'm on chapter 7. And I've watched Black Clover quite a few times. I'm not gonna lie, it's a good show. It grows on you. Like, you might be one of those people. I don't really want to watch a guy who just spouts a bunch of nonsense until he can back it up. Well, Asta can back it up, and he does it well, very, very, very well. So, you know, never stop watching an anime if you start it. Same thing with starting in your writing. Never stop. Keep going. If somebody says, there's too many plot holes in your book, you need to work on this and work on that and do this and do that. Ignore them. You write it the way you want to. The way you. That's right, I'm pointing at you. Whoever's watching this video, I'm pointing at you. You write the way you want to write it. If you like what somebody tells you, like say that a stranger walks up to you and says, hey, I read your first book. But in your next book, why don't you try making a character like this instead of like that? However he says it, whatever he says exactly, You follow your heart about your book. You follow your head and your heart, your mind and soul. You put those emotions into it. You put your ideas into that book. And nothing will go wrong. I did. I became an author because of it. I had friends and family talk to me to give me ideas. I asked their opinions. I was like, okay, so I gotta go on like this. Should I add here? Should I change this? And they didn't just be like, oh yeah, sure, add your character fishing on a boulder the size of Texas. They weren't like that. No, my family and friends pointed out mistakes that I made in the book. And they told me flat out, here's what you should do. Here's how you should do it. You need your writing here is misplaced. You need to put it here instead. Or you kind of got the characters in chapter 1 mixed up with chapter 3 or something, They let me know. And my family and friends were right. Even though I read my own book and reread it, I had noticed that. I mean, I hadn't. I had not noticed that. It took a friend or a family member to point it out to me. My mom. Best woman in the world to give you criticism if you need it. She's going to be honest with you, and that's what you need. You don't want to talk to a family member who doesn't even care about your writing or your book or what you're even doing for your book. You don't. That's not what you need. That's too stressful. Not to mention, they're just being a jackass. What you need to do, how you need to do it, is up to you. If somebody gives you a point, you take it. It's like on a scale of brownie points or something. Okay, their ideas for your ideas, it's on a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, this idea I give it a 10, so I'll put it in this chapter because it works with this chapter. That's the way you need to do it. You follow what you want. If you have a friend who's able to correct grammar or help you learn the right way to write something because you got it mixed up with something else or whatever, let them help you. Let them help you. I've asked I asked a teacher of mine for help so many times that I literally think she wanted to pull her hair out. Every time I'd get done writing a chapter or finishing half a chapter or even sometimes just a couple of sentences, I'd print it out and I'd be like, okay, so do you mean like this? Or should I switch it back around and maybe move a couple of words here and there, and she would tell me, she would be like, look, this is what you need to fix. And she'd put a red check mark or underline words in red and stuff like that to help me fix the problem. And like I said, she probably got to the point where she literally wanted me, wanted to just take that chunk of hair out of her head because I asked her for help so much. But if she wasn't a great teacher, I wouldn't have asked her for help. And if she happens to watch this video, thank you. for the help that you gave me. Thank you for all the help that you gave me. I'm grateful. You know who you are. I don't need to say your name. You know exactly who you are. You were one of the best teachers I ever had. I'll never forget your name, but I'm not going to say it in this video. Shut up, phone. There are things in life when you are in the middle of working on your book. I'm moving the camera. When you're in the middle of working on your book, there are things that, if you do it the right way. Oh, that's my computer screen. If you can even see it, I can't get the damn thing to focus. Whoops, sorry. Okay, so if you are following your heart and you finish a book, have as many friends and family members read that book, because it's only a rough draft, until you have said to yourself, all right, I'm done. I am finished. I got this book the way I want it to be. It is complete. Man, that light is really, really bright. Switch the computer around this way so it's not in the way. There we go. I got this book written the way I want it to, and now I can get started on the second book. And while I'm working on the second book, I'll also work on finding someone to get my book published through. If you if you only work on your book half-assed, it's only going to be half as good as you would have it if you made the book with 100% all the way through. And believe me, that's why I had to go through it so many times. I just started getting frustrated on the first book. So much so, like I said in the beginning, I got so frustrated with it throughout the entire freaking thing that, honest to God, I just went with whatever I went with to get it done. But then once I reread it, once I read it and reread it and had some friends read it and some family members read it and family friends read it, every single one of them took notes for me. And they pointed out so much stuff that I literally had to re-go through the entire thing. And when I went through it for the second and third and fourth and fifth and sixth time, yeah, that's right, 6 times, I had to go through the same book, the first book I got published, 6 times before it was perfect, before it was 100%, before I finally put all of my heart and soul into it. And so, there's no such thing as working too hard on that book that you're writing or trying to get published. No such thing. You get it published the way that you should, not the way that you want to. I got my book published the way I wanted, in a hurry, half-assed. It was not done right. It was wrong. The entire thing, the entire book was published wrong because I wanted to hurry up and do it. I should have listened to my mom. Thank God she's always right. Thank you, Mom. If you ever stumble across this video, thank you. God bless you. Working on my first book, and you know, it was difficult. Some of it was easy, some of it was extremely difficult, some of it was extremely easy. You know, it bounced around a lot. It was wholly random. You know, I'd be on a roll. I'd be like, my friends couldn't get me to stop. My family couldn't get me to stop. Because I wanted to keep on going. I wanted to keep on writing. And then I'd make a new character and then I'd freeze in my tracks, just like that. Boom. Just like Mr. Freeze. Or Cooler, just like Cooler. No, not Cooler. Cooler was Freeze's brother in the Dragon Balls series, sagas, whatever. So, yeah. Like Mr. Freeze, I froze in my tracks. There was nothing I could do. Nothing. Nothing. Sometimes it would take me a week at a time if I made a new character. Sometimes if I was on a good enough roll, it would only take me a little bit, you know, like a couple of minutes or maybe an hour of thinking. Like, I'd always take a break, let it sit there, and just look at it, stare at it, give it the eye, you know? And then I'd be like, okay, screw it, I got nothing. I'd pop in a movie. The movie intro, a lot of the times, because of the music, you know, music is important at the beginning of every single movie, right? Sometimes it would give me an idea. And then I'd be like, you know, typing and writing and working. And that's where I'm at now. Like I said, I'm on chapter 7. And writer's block, it happens. But it's like something my dad said, it could just be a mental thing, you know, it could be just you're subconsciously stopping yourself from doing the writing, and that's why you keep having a mental block. And he could be right, because on and off this whole time, on and off, I get an idea, I'll write it, you know, use it and write it down in the book, and then just like a well or a waterfall, it might dry out or dry up and be done. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I should have started that because that's usually how I start my videos. I'm saying it now at the end. And I'll see you soon. You have a good night, or a good morning, or good afternoon, or a good evening. Goodbye.